Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It is such a good day to see you guys. Such a good day to see you guys. Really quickly, I've got something I want to read to you, but really quickly after this.
Powered by Riverside.
All right, listen to this. If you grow up going to Dollar General or Dollar Tree, whichever one, because that's all you can afford, you might end up buying a box of 15 dryer sheets for $1.25. If you do laundry 3 times a week, using one sheet each time, that's 12 dryer sheets per month. You need to buy a box every month for $1.25. That's pretty cheap. But if you went to Target, you could get a box of 240 dryer sheets for $10, which obviously is a much better deal. So just doing the math, if you cut that Target box into tenths, right? Each tenth would contain 24 dryer sheets. Double what you get for about the same price at the dollar store. But that Target box would last you 20 months instead of just 1 month. And over that time, you'd end up saving $15 on dryer sheets alone is by buying it in bulk. But the problem when you're poor and you've only got $100 for all your groceries, your household items, you cannot spend $10 just on dryer sheets alone. You are forced to make the financially worst decision because you physically cannot afford to buy in bulk. That is poverty tax. That is what we're diving into today. And I got a lot I want to get off my chest about poverty tax because so many people don't understand it, don't even realize that it exists. And I talk a lot about taxes here on the podcast. But this is about the tax of the poverty tax, the hidden cost that is associated with it. Now, I wrote an article about the poverty tax, and I want to dive into it today because I got a lot. I got a lot I want to get off my chest because I am so sick and tired of the individuals that are paying the poverty tax every day. I'm so very sick and tired of it. So we got a lot to talk about today. But before we get into that really quickly, I do have a sponsorship announcement. Once again, DSBs. If you guys are not familiar with DSBs is an amazing skincare product company. Oh man, I've been using them for about 8 months now, and they have done me very well. So if you go to dsbs.com, you can spell that not DS. dsbs.com. You can spell it with either an S and DS or a Z and DS and be able to find it. They have amazing skincare products. Their skincare products are created and made from bees. Well, I thought I could. There we go. Their skincare products are made from bees. Such a cool concept. And it feels so good on your skin. And then they've got this tattoo aftercare that smells so good. It feels so good as well. I like to use this tattoo all natural balm, and it feels so good on my skin. This balm right here, all you do is just unscrew it, take it, and just rub it all over your tattoos. I got sleeves and up there, I've got tattoos everywhere. So if you are a tattoo mongrel like me, DSB's tattoo products, phenomenal for you. They also got like like chapstick size balm, except it's like a little bit bigger. It's about an ounce, I think it is. And you just take it and you can also just rub it on your tattoo as well. But DSB's has amazing just skincare products overall. I think they've also got some pretty other cool like little merchandise and such that you can also have. Pet wash even, which I think is also so funny. Wash your dog with bees today. Use bees to create a natural insect repellent today, all for only $18. And if you work today and you use my discount code charming15, that's CHARMING15, then you will get 15% off your order, as well as if any order you have is more than $40, you get free shipping. Now, this, I don't know how long they're going to have this, because this is something that's new. So make sure to go and check out dsbs.com today and let me know which one of the products are your favorite products. DSBs, thank you for sponsoring all of my business. They sponsor all of my business here at Reforged HQ. So let's go ahead and talk about the true costs of being poor. Oh man. The true cost of being poor. As I said before, we don't even realize that it's there. Being poor is so expensive. It's so expensive that it actually keeps people trapped in this vicious cycle that is almost impossible to break without fundamentally changing everything about what you do. Obviously, like as I talk about, if you have to go to the dollar store consistently, you're paying this higher property tax because you can't buy in bulk. You can't afford to. So you can't even afford to make the proper decisions, the better decisions, better choices. You can't afford it. So what do I mean when I say that it's expensive? Because it goes so deep. It goes so much deeper than I think even just that top layer that I just talked about in that example. But first off, I got to clarify, because I think this is something that a lot of people get wrong. It's not the government's job to get individuals out of poverty. I come across it so often. So many people are so angry that the government does not get them out of being poor, does not reduce the poverty tax. The poverty tax is not one that is something that you physically pay. You don't physically pay cash to someone like you would regular taxes. It's the taxes that's going to society because of these things. And don't get me wrong, I do believe the government's job is to solve the poverty epidemic, but it's not to get us personally out of poverty. What I think they do is that they attempt to solve the epidemic by offering opportunities. Oh man, there's this great musical. There's this great musical that I love so much. And there's a line from it. Opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. It's such an amazing line. Opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. And the saddest part about that is that it's very true. But the government allows us opportunity. We have more opportunities in America to become more wealthy than most other places. People come here because they can make their own wealth. And the Constitution essentially gives us the right to own our own land, property, make our own money, and that's it. We're given more than anyone else from any other country. And I think it's so very important that most people understand that, but they don't realize that about our country. Like they know land of the free, home of the brave. They know that, but they're not actually, they don't actually understand, and they don't take the routes to do that. And if they do, a lot of times they also take bad routes, poor routes. But I think here's the hard truth that most people don't want to hear, In America, the problem isn't a lack of opportunity. It's a failure to recognize opportunities that already exist for most people. They either don't know that the Constitution gives us those rights and privileges to own our own stuff, or they just choose to ignore these privileges that are actually handed to them. I mean, handed to them. The opportunity to start your own businesses, make your own money, buy your own land, do what you want to do. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I think Americans are spoiled. The reason why I know that is because the way that they treated me when I was in the military. Being in America is so great that people take it for granted. And being in the military and having an amazing, the best military force ever of any time period, ever, people in America take that for granted. Yo, defund the military. Do you understand what would happen if America did not have? You don't understand how many people hate us. You're so privileged that you can't even see how many people hate us. And if we did not have the military force that we have, just not being present, America would be taken over. America would. That is how spoiled Americans are. The way that they used to treat us when I was in the military. People are so unappreciative. So unappreciative. And I know not everybody in the military are all going into war and fighting and battle, blah, 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 blah. But someone has to stand up and do it. And because America is so spoiled, they don't even know how to appreciate it. And that right there shows me just how spoiled America is when it comes to understanding the privileges that they have. And they take it for granted. I think this country was just built on the ideas of 40 acres and a mule, and people never even... Do you know what 40 acres and a mule is? I did a podcast with an individual last season, and this man, amazing. He said 40 acres and a mule is an analogy for just owning your own land, property, and making your own money. That's it. We are actually given that in our Constitution, that we're supposed to own our own stuff. And people don't even realize. I mean, literally, the founding documents of this nation are literally centered around the idea that you can own your own property, build your own businesses, create your own wealth without all of these arbitrary barriers around it. You don't have to be of royal descent. You don't need any special permission. You don't need any of that stuff. You don't need a background check to start an LLC. You don't need a background check to get an EIN. But you don't need any government approval to start beginning building your own wealth. None. But what do most people do with these privileges? Not a single thing, and ignore them completely. You can be a felon running a business. Actually, I think there are more. I think the ratio of felons with LLCs to individuals with LLCs in this nation, I think felons, more of them have LLCs, right? If 40% of felons own an LLC, 10% of Americans who are not don't. Because they need to figure something else out. I'm not saying that all felons will go and find a job. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that is the thing that so many people don't understand. In America, you don't need to be of royal descent in order to have and create your own money and wealth. Man, I'm sorry. I got a lot I want to get off my chest today about this topic. Because I grew up around this. I grew up with it, paying the property tax. And I don't want other people to, if you see it, if you understand it, if you know that it exists, then you can stop it. Then you can stop it. This brings me to my next piece. If you know that it exists, then you can stop it. If you know it exists, then you can actually stop it. There's this allegory of the cave example. This is an amazing, like one of the most profound philosophical concepts ever developed about human perception and reality. So it can be so hard because I believe that most people are dealing with this limited perspective, this limited perception of why we can't see beyond our own current circumstances. Because when we are trapped in poverty, the shadows do feel very real. When we're trapped in poverty, it feels very much like we can never get out of where we are. And so what you are experiencing is exactly what Plato described in the Allegory of the Cave concept years ago. And it's really great. I'll talk about it. So in Plato's allegory, prisoners have been chained inside a cave since childhood. All they could see was just staring at a blank wall in the cave. Now behind them, there was a fire. And between the fire and the prisoners is a walkway where people carry objects all day, and they're casting shadows on the walls that the prisoners can see. And these prisoners know nothing else but these shadows. And so to them, shadows are reality. That's it. The prisoners even start to give identifiers or names to these shadows. They create games around identifying them. They'll even build their entire identity, their entire understanding of the world based solely on these projections that they don't realize are projections, right? But they've got no concept of how the entire world exists outside of their limited scope, outside of their limited perspective. And so the shadows that they see are literally just limitations of actual objects. But they do believe with all of their heart and everything that they are the most real things in existence. Shadows on a wall. But because I can't see anything else, most realistic thing ever. Now I think this perfectly illustrates exactly what happens in poverty. When you're trapped in financial hardship, your entire reality narrows to just immediate survival. And that's it. You can't even conceive, you can't even see the opportunities, the possibilities, and that freedom that exists outside of your current experience. You are actually in that position. You're literally chained to a perspective that keeps you staring at shadows of being poor. Wow, there's actually real prosperity, real wealth, real money, real freedom, real stressless life. Literally just outside of that awareness. I mean, the cave entrance is right down the hall, but you're chained here looking at this poverty. Since you were a child, your family also put you in that situation as well. And it's not always their fault. But why most people stay stuck in there, because just if you were to go and try and free those cave prisoners, because people would try, those prisoners would fight against the individuals who are trying to free them and let them go out of the cave. But because the bright sunlight was so painful to their eyes, freedom was so, oh my God, freedom is so painful to their eyes because they've been trapped and they've only known darkness. Most of the cave prisoners will resist this and go back in, and they would rather be chained and look at the walls. And many people resist uncomfortable truths and changes that are required to escape poverty. It burns their eyes. And so they'd rather just stay in the cave. And it's so frustrating because they would prefer these familiar limitations over temporary, so temporary discomfort of growth. Your eyes will figure it out. Close your eyes while you're out there. Ask for somebody to help you out as you walk around. Open your eyes a little bit, blink them. Wear shades. But just get to the freedom and figure it out there. But your entire reality becomes limited to this cave of day-to-day thinking, and with these moving shadows on the wall representing what you think is progress, right? People, because they're trapped in this cave, and they are naming these figures, and they're playing games with these figures, and like their perception of the reality of these figures on the wall grows in their brain. They're tricking themselves to feel like they actually have this progress from leaving poverty when you're still in the same exact place. But what you perceive is just as reality is literally just a shadow of what's actually possible. That's how powerful poverty becomes. That's how poverty mindset becomes. You literally cannot see beyond your own immediate circumstances. When you don't acknowledge the opportunities that you have, what happens? You start to feel like a victim. And I see so many people in this situation all the time. They literally cannot see past the right now. They will literally rather be stuck and chained in a cave. And they choose not to believe that there is the possibility of freedom right down the cave hallway. Someone comes and tries to just set them free, and it is so uncomfortable to their eyes. Tell me this. If you knew a child, if you've got a child, and your child was caved to that chain all their life because of some circumstance, and you finally came and found your child in that cave, and you saw them, and you recognized them. Maybe they don't recognize you because all they know are the shadows. Would you want to save them? Would you want to unchain them and help them? What would you do to free them and make sure that they take that uncomfortable step outside? What would you do? What would you say to them? Would you carry them? Would you blindfold them? What would you do to get them to step outside and see that there is more freedom outside of this cave? Would you do anything? Would you do anything for that? And it's so sad because another concept of this is that caves are so small. There's only so much space. That's it. And I get so tired of people feeling like there is not enough wealth to go around. The reason why they say that are because they've got poverty mindset. They're in a cave. All they see is this limited amount of cave. They've got a cave entrance hole this big, which is even smaller than the cave's size itself. And when people say there's not enough money to go around, or they're hogging all the money, they've got all the money, or when they say I can't make more money because that's going to be taking some money from someone, it makes sense. You get it now, right? You get it now, right? Because if their cave is 50 by 50 feet and the cave entrance is a 10-foot tall, 5-foot wide opening, it looks like there's not enough space for everybody to fit out of that. But what is on the other side of that cave entrance? The entire world, all of the rest of reality, all of the rest of life, everything else, all types of opportunities and freedoms, more than enough space for everyone to exist. And that's the same exact thing about money and wealth and freedoms and opportunities. You have this limited perspective of how much somebody can earn, how much somebody can make. If I make more money, somebody else makes less. Somebody else makes all the money, so there's not enough space for me. Because you're in this cave day-to-day thinking. You only see the little hole. But when you step outside that, you realize how much more space and possibilities you have. When you don't acknowledge the opportunities you have, you start to feel like a victim when you don't receive direct assistance. You look around, you feel like nobody's helping me. While you're ignoring all these systematic freedoms that are designed specifically to help you out. There's handles in caves that walks you out of the cave. There are handles that you could have. They've got shades for when you go back outside because your eyes have to readjust. You've got tour guides. You got all these things. You got all the tools. But because nobody directly hands you the shades, because nobody directly walks you over to the handlebars, because the cave tour guide doesn't directly come to you and say, let me help you out of this cave, you start to feel like a victim. If you don't see the hand that's trying to help you, then yeah, it might feel like nobody's there. Yeah, it might feel like the government's not helping you out. And that feeling is so very valid. It is. Because your reality in your world is what you feel and what you see. And that's it. Nothing else. I told you I had a lot to get off my chest today. I didn't mean to yell. I didn't mean to yell at you guys. I'm sorry. So growing up, I feel like really there was nobody helping me, my mom, my family, nobody. It definitely felt like nobody was there for us. And I understand that feeling completely. But what I didn't realize until much, much later was that assistance wasn't going to come in the form of a handout. It was already there in the form of opportunity structures that I hadn't really learned to leverage yet. And this is where I think the real tragedy for me at least began, because people who are poor and don't recognize the options, opportunities, chances, just potential benefits that they have, they are the ones that are truly trapped. It's so sad to see. It's so sad to witness, because not knowing what the Constitution means when it says we are owed our own opportunity is literally locking you in that cave. We're supposed to have freedom. We are supposed to have our own income. We are supposed to be able to work hard and make as much money as we want to. We are supposed to, but ignoring those costs you so much. Ignoring those costs, ignoring the fact that those are even things, and ignoring those costs, that poverty tax, it costs you so much more in life than just what you think it does. So the Constitution wasn't written to guarantee any outcomes. I think it was just written to guarantee opportunities. And until the Constitution is, for some reason, decided that it is unconstitutional to guarantee opportunities, then you've got them. It doesn't promise that everybody will be wealthy, and it just promises that everybody has the right to pursue wealth. It promises that everybody has the right to pursue wealth. And I think that distinction is very critical. And so whenever I hear people say that, the system is rigged, I think what they're oftentimes missing is that while there are certainly some, I think there are systematic or structural barriers and inequalities. There are, right? But the fundamental right to just build, own, and grow your own whatever has never been taken away and will never. The path will for sure be harder for some people than other people, right? I completely acknowledge that, but the path does exist. So I think the most dangerous belief is when people are saying that the government, the system, the economy is just unfair. It's just that you don't have any agency with it. That's just what it is. And that belief comes from your own self-fulfilling prophecy that guarantees that you're going to continue poverty. So I want to talk about some of the day-to-day realities of property tax, right? I gave an example at the beginning of just like going to the dollar store versus like Target to buy in bulk. But let's talk about a handful of other things. Banking fees. Oh man, they are another massive expense when you're poor, right? I used to get so many overdraft fees all the time just because I didn't have enough money for, I don't know, random expenses, right? I was really good with making sure that I spent exactly what I made. Obviously, that's called living paycheck to paycheck, right? But I was really good with spending exactly the money that I make. I would have maybe a few extra dollars here and there because maybe my paycheck will be just a little bit different or something like that, right? Maybe electricity bill would be a little bit lower. But also, when the electricity bill was a little bit higher than expected, I'm getting an overdraft fee, right? Somebody breaks into the house and you needed to fix the door, fix the window, and they replace some of the things, which has happened. Overdraft fees. Oh man, I think one of the worst ones is the car tires. Car tires are so expensive. Yeah, so expensive. I don't know what they're running for nowadays, but so expensive. And having tire issues, overdraft fees. For different banks that I had when I was younger, sometimes overdraft fees would be like $15, $30. And it would happen like 5 to 10 times a month for me. I get paid twice. So that's 2 chances to refill my account so that way I can pay all the bills and then get overdraft fees again. And I believe that, like, as I remember, they would allow me to overdraft like certain maxes. And then sometimes they would never really care either, right? They'd let me overdraft $200, $300, $400, $500 even, which is one bank. And if you're getting charged 5 overdraft fees of like, let's say $20 each, that's $100 in overdraft fees a month. Over a year, that's $1,200 in just bank fees, just for not having enough money. Because you didn't have enough money, you were charged $1,200. $1,200 would you use so good if you properly invested it. Obviously, that's about a sixth of the maximum contribution amount for a Roth IRA. It's crazy that you can spend just that much in overdraft fees to a bank because being poor doesn't allow you to have the extra money for a savings account or for emergency funds. Being poor does not allow you the extra money for a savings account or emergency funds. The exact things that would prevent the overdraft fees in the first place, if you did have it. So being poor cost me $1,200 a year. Actually, a lot more, because that's a minimal example. Let's talk about another example of some day-to-day realities. Housing, another perfect example. Your mortgage payment per month is significantly cheaper than rent would be for the same exact property. Why? Well, you're further away from ownership. The further away from ownership, the more you're gonna pay. Remember that. The further you are away from ownership, the more you are going to pay. That exists in every situation. When you are the direct owner, you pay a lot. Your cost is a lot less. Sometimes not just cost like straight up cash, but the cost of like the risk and things like that. But anyway, going back to the housing, your mortgage payment is much cheaper than your rent will be for the same exact place because every home or apartment is owned by someone or some entity who has to pay their own taxes, their own expenses, their own property value, all that stuff, right? Their own mortgages and their own stuff. But they're not just going to rent it out for exactly what they owe, right? As an example, if the owner's mortgage is $1,200 a month, they're going to rent it for $1,500, $1,600, $1,800, $2,000. Whatever market value is for that, maybe a little bit more. They make money, but if you're renting from them, you're paying a lot more because you're further from the ownership and they get to choose how much money you pay. Simple. But because you are poor and you cannot afford to buy a house for yourself with a cheaper mortgage, your prices get jacked all the way up. Now, with your prices, like the cost of like housing, like your rent being much higher. I mean, if you've got, let's say $2,000, or let's say you make $3,000 a month, and your rent is $1,800 a month, that $1,800 versus if you bought it for $1,200, that extra $600 is just keeping you from having more discretionary income, right? Discretionary income is the extra income that you have after you pay all your bills. Having that higher rent keeps you from having more discretionary income for other things. It keeps you from paying down debt faster. It keeps you from being able to improve your credit score so you can afford a loan to buy a house. So renting literally makes it so much harder for you to go and own your own stuff and buy a house. Because you just give your money away. You don't have the extra funds to actually create an emergency fund. Now let's talk about if your credit score isn't great, right? If your credit score isn't great and you don't have savings, any mortgage that you do get approved for, if you could, will have a crazy high interest rate. So even if you could get approved for a home loan, even if you could, that high interest rate is just going to jack up your monthly payment as well. Once again, leaving you in a negative situation where you don't have the discretionary funds to pay for other things. But at least this time now you've got a house, right? Then there's also like this generational poverty tax. And I'm not going to speak too much on the generational poverty tax, but I can give a really great example. If you don't buy a house before you pass away that you cannot leave to your family, they fall into the same exact situation. They do, right? Because now they've got to find rent and all that stuff, right? But if you force yourself to buy a house while you're growing, while you're older, or whatever the case, you force yourself to buy a house, force yourself to figure it out, whatever you got to do, and then you pay it off and now own your home, the next generation can grow up in your home without having to worry about mortgage payments or rent. They now can use that extra income to start undoing the generational poverty tax. That could help out so much. Insurance, right? Insurance is another really great way to undo generational poverty tax, because maybe you could not afford to buy a house, but maybe you leave back enough money in your insurance for them to be able to just buy a house. $500,000. Hey, this $500,000 goes towards buying a house. And you just pay for the house. You don't even get a home loan if you can pay for the house, right? You know, finding a home and all that kind of stuff would be a little bit more difficult, but still. So that generational poverty tax, that day-to-day poverty tax, I mean, there's so many examples of day-to-day poverty taxes. And it weighs so much more heavily on us than I think we even realize. There's this massive emotional weight of poverty. I think the worst part about being poor is that you're always just fighting and thinking about the now. That's so exhausting. I've had a ton of mental health issues, and it's exhausting to fight my own mental health so much. But at least in me fighting it and working with it, I'm progressing out of this mental health hole that I'm in. But when we're in this poverty-stricken place, we're always fighting poverty. We're not fighting to get out of it. And always having to think about the right now, you're just constantly fighting every situation that gets thrown at you. It's so hard to get out of your mindset, right? It's so hard to get out of that mindset when your everyday life is about immediate survival. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like because your financial situation keeps you consistently thinking about right now. No matter what your mindset says, no matter how many books you read, no matter what, like your financial situation physically prevents you from thinking about the future. You can't think about next month. You got to think about right now. You got to think about right now, this week, tomorrow, today. That is it. That's all you can think about. And that's why we develop such fixed mindsets growing up if we're poor. And I feel like those mindsets become so deeply rooted in us. So you have to fix both your financial situation and your way of thinking. That's so hard. You've got two major things that you've never been taught that you now have to undo. Both. Financial situation, mindset. Oh, that's why I'm consistently talking about how your income only grows to the extent that you do. If you're not changing, if you're not learning, if you're not understanding these concepts, if you don't understand the taxes of being poor, if you're not reading, you're not educating yourself, you're not trying to make a difference, you're not trying to grow outside of yourself, you're not trying to get into a better position at a better company, you're not trying to own things. If you're doing all of these things, but you're not, or if you're not doing all of these things, you're never going to improve your own situation. I think people say that America is built to keep people poor, and that's not true. It's not built that way. Look at economics. How can it be built to keep people poor when there's so much money flowing through the system? Money's just being printed. Look at everybody right now. Everybody's entrepreneurs trying to figure it out. A lot of them suck. But they're trying. But it's so hard because so many people get stuck. And they don't realize that. Whew. Oof. Listen, there's so much about this poverty tax that keeps us locked in. That keeps us locked in and into the same exact places that we've always been. But I want to talk quickly about some financial. I want to talk quickly about like this financial concept that I learned, and it actually has nothing to do with. It has nothing to do with. Let me zoom out. How do I zoom out? There we go. It has nothing to do specifically with being in poverty. Nothing to do specifically about being in poverty. I want to share my screen. There we go. But I love the concept of what I want to teach here. So there's three paths of accounts. There's three paths of accounts, but I think this is one of the most powerful financial literacy lessons that I learned was the difference between fixed, variable, and index accounts. But I want to talk about how this concept applies to everything in your life financially, not just investments. So really quickly, fixed, variable, and index. Fixed accounts are like bank accounts, right? Your money goes in, you get a fixed interest rate, but it doesn't really grow much or change much, right? Variable accounts have your money in the market, subject to market inflations, right? It goes up and down with the stock market with the value of, the market being great or crazy, whatever. So it's at the risk of loss. Then you've got index accounts, which they take no loss to the market and they have consistent growth and returns, but you can never just get randomly rich from these accounts. But you also never lose anything either. So the three of these balance each other out very well if you have all accounts and you have accounts in all three categories with the right plan, right strategy, all that kind of stuff is really great. But what really transformed my thinking was when I started applying this fixed variable and index framework to income streams and careers instead of just investment accounts. So I started thinking about a 9-to-5 job as fixed income, right? Even though technically it's variable, right? Your hours or your pay could change. It's essentially fixed because you just go to work, you make a certain amount of money per hours that you work, and that's it. That's a fixed job. You've got variable income careers like real estate, right? Real estate is a career where you can make more or less money based on how the housing market is doing, right? And also based on your skills and ability to be able to sell. Many businesses also fall into this category, right? Your income varies based on market conditions and your performance. And finally, there's index income, right? This is like my business, where as I build my business, my income never goes down. It only goes up, right? Doing things in finance or insurance, or where you own a system as well, right? Where it's not just you, where you have leverage. That's where you have index income, right? So even if the stock market or the housing market or the government takes a huge hit, index income doesn't take a dip at all. It's all protected from environmental changes. So once I understood these principles, it completely changed my outlook on how I leverage the financial system. I started thinking, well, why would I only have one type of income? And why would it be fixed, which is the worst type? Variable income can make me randomly rich, and index income gives me safety and stability. Combined, they're much better than just only having fixed income. Now, the government offers us opportunities to have all different types of income, right? And that's how you leverage the system. But most people only think about this in a fixed income mindset. They think they're safe with their money in the bank, right? Which is a fixed account. With their fixed income job, they feel like they're safe because they go to work, they make the money, and they leave. But that is such a dangerous illusion, right? If the market crashes again like it did in 2008, well, guess what happens to your money in the bank? Probably gone. It's unsafe. Banks are not as secure as people think. Pensions are fixed accounts too. What happens what happens to your pension if the company doesn't want to give it to you? They can just take it. They actually can. What happens to your 401k? Now, 401k is variable, but you don't own it. The government does. So what happens if the government's like, hey, we're in so much debt, we need to start taking from some of these employer contributed plans because they can. And they just take some of that income. What happens then? You have no real security because the fact that you think you have security in a fixed account. With fixed income, or with a fixed career, that is exactly when you're not secure. And if you don't protect yourself by diversifying your income streams across all three of these categories, and you have all your eggs in that one basket, if anything happens, your job is gone, your income is gone, your accounts are gone. And literally, it could be up to anything or anybody. Elon Musk and Donald Trump are fighting right now. Elon Musk lost, I read $34 million. Now, obviously, that's some pennies to him. But the market is also tied to Elon Musk's worth. Do you really want your entire future life and career based on Elon Musk saying something bad on Twitter? And that's everything? No. So understanding how to apply this financial principle of fixed variable index accounts, but to income streams and career choices, was a major breakthrough for me, and moving from a poverty mindset to just a genuinely good financial literacy for my own career. It changed everything about how I approach building wealth. Everything. So understanding which of these three, which one is which, and then piecing them together is so very important for everyone, for everybody to leverage, for everyone to use. If you are only in one of these, you are wrong. I don't care what industry you feel like you're in. if your income is only coming from one of these, if your career is only coming from one of these styles, one of these types of income careers, you're wrong. Every person should at least have 3 income streams, or at least have 3 different career choices in some way, shape, or form. A fixed one, that's perfect. Why? Because you get some money just for the time. Variable, that's great because you can get randomly rich. You can make a lot of random money. That's amazing. Index, you have leverage. You have systems that are growing for you, that are doing things for you and are protected. You get money just for the time you're putting in. You get money for doing great salesmanship or great things. And you have leverage. You have protection. But if you only have one, you're missing so much. You're missing so much. I'm going to tell you right now, you're in real estate and that's all you do, you're wrong. And that's why you're not building wealth. You're in insurance and that's all you do, you're wrong. If you're writing books and that's all you're doing, you're wrong. And if you work at McDonald's and that's all you do, you're wrong. I had a lot to get off my chest. We got a few minutes here left, but I think the cost of being poor, it obviously goes beyond that financial strain, right? It also includes all the opportunities that you miss. And I think even worse, the ones that you never even knew existed. Let me give an example. I couldn't go to Vanderbilt University because I didn't have enough money to go to school out of state. All right, I did get an amazing scholarship from them, about $35,000, which only left me about $10,000 a year in out-of-state tuition to pay out of pocket. But obviously, I couldn't afford that. So I couldn't even afford taking out student loans and debt because of how poor I was. Now, I'm grateful that I didn't go to that college because it might have put me on a different path in life and I might not have ended where I am now. And I ended up going to a great music school instead, one of the best in the state of Missouri, and also one of the only debt-free private music schools in the country. So it ended up turning out to be a really good outcome, but it wasn't my first choice. Vanderbilt University could have potentially earned me so much more money and a much better career earlier. There were lots of investment opportunities that I missed out on because I didn't have money for them. Right? I remember when crypto started becoming a thing. I remember when Bitcoin was just starting. A lot of people were talking about it, right? And I just didn't have the money for it. Then there's also because you're poor, the people I was around, right? The people who you are around when you're poor are just poor people as well. You're around poor people all the time. So they don't also know what's going on. They don't know what opportunities are out there. So you also miss out on the countless opportunities that you don't even realize because you're around people that aren't talking about opportunities, right? Poor people primarily talk about being poor and working jobs that only maintain what? Being poor. They talk about empty promises. We know that. We all know it. It's about empty promises and empty dreams and never take action. So you end up developing the same exact habits of inaction. Being poor and being around poor people cost me relationships with people who take action. I can't even imagine all the options and opportunities that I missed because I couldn't see them just due to how poor I was. And before we get out of here, I want to talk about some invisible advantages of being wealth really quickly. Then we're going to get out of here. It's so crazy because now that I actually have built, a name for myself, now that I actually have money, I've got businesses and I've got leverage systems. I get more offers for $5,000 gaming PCs, right? I'm also a gaming content creator as well. I run a business. I've got all of that stuff. But now I get offers for $5,000 gaming PCs for free, for the record, for free. But I can afford a $5,000 gaming PC. But what about 5-10 years ago when I could not afford this level of equipment then? If I had the same exact benefit 5 years ago, my content creation career would have been much further along now, and I would have made so much more money than I have, just from content creation. I've been doing content creation for about 10 years. I would have been much further along, but I get all these discounts now. I spend less on body care, right? Check out dsbs.com. use Charming15 at checkout, right? I spend less on body care than I ever have, right? Not because I just buy less, just because companies literally just give me discounts to promote their products to my followers. Now that I've got better credit, I just get better offers for credit cards, lower interest rates. I don't even need to ask or bargain like I used to. Same with car loans, right? You're almost handed these things when you're more wealthy, when you're in a better position, when you're around better people. There's just so many more opportunities. There's so much. I've taken more vacations and trips in the last 2 years with my company than in my entire life. And I think I have spent less money on all of these trips combined than I used to spend on one trip. I'm taking free vacations now. That's crazy. I can buy things in bundles, right? Buying in bundles gets you so much free stuff. I mean, like, as an example, I love paying for entire subscriptions, like an entire year of subscriptions at a time, because they give you 2, 3, 4 months off. They give you huge discounts. They give you 60% off if you buy, or 40% off if you buy for the whole year. I can do that because I have the money to do that. But other people, when I couldn't, I was just spending all that money. I'm going to pay for Netflix regardless. I'm going to figure it out, right? So if I'm going to pay for it month after month, now that I have the money to just buy it in bundle, I get it for so much cheaper, and that allows me to keep more money. You'd be shocked. You'd be shocked what an electric company would do if you called them, right? I called them. I said, "Hey, what happened if I just like pay $2,000 up front for the whole year?" They're like, "Well, let me ask the manager." It came back. The manager was like, "We'll give you a $200 credit to your account." So I started off my year at $2,200 in my account. Right now, I think I've got a balance of about $500 in my electricity account because I just paid ahead. They gave me more money. You'll be shocked what electric companies, water companies, landlords would even do. If you are paying rent, you'd be shocked what they would do if you offer to pay your bill in an entire year up front, 2 months off. I cannot tell y'all. It's a completely different situation when you're saving more money because of all the extra opportunities you get to take. But that poverty tax keeps you exactly where you are, and it ruins your life, and you don't even realize it. You don't even realize it. So with that being said, make sure you guys check out the blog. I'll be putting the link below if you want to learn more about those insights that I just gave. And I look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of days on Friday. So you guys have an amazing day. I will see you guys later. Take good care. Bye.